right? Let me drop the link really quick.
Stay hydrated.
That part.
All right. Cool. If y'all could make sure that that is live over there in the group. And yo, so check this out. We got a really good one. And I hope we debunk this myth or dispel this truth that was created thousands of years ago, and it needs to be gone forever and a day. Look, I'm gonna go ahead and just say it. Look, there is I would much rather to be working with someone that I know that has the skills versus a piece of paper. Every time. I choose them every single time. Look, this is the Gens. We're talking skills over scores tonight. And I got my wonderful panel here. We've got Marcia, Kyra, Johans, Kelly, all doing amazing things in life. And look, today we're talking about this really crucial topic of college. And is it needed is a college degree or the college experience, is it even needed in today's society? From our generational perspective. Let's kick this one off, y'all. I mean, we were talking a little earlier about this generation versus that generation, and from our different perspectives. Like, give me a generational perspective of what it was like, from your generation, as far as college is concerned, and where you kind of see things now.
Well, as the Gen Xer in the group, I was told go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a good job. And really, that's where they left off. Like, go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a job. And after that, they didn't care. But school was so important. Making sure that you went to college was super important. Good grades in high school, but you got to pick a college, you got to go to college, you got to have a career. And I remember, just to tell you how important it was. Now, my grandmother was born in 1920. My mother was born in 1950. So when I got pregnant sometime later on, while I was still in college, I was so terrified to tell both of them. And not neither of them said, how you feel? Are you okay? They said, what about school? So that was very ingrained in what I was told and had to do to be successful in life. Now I disagree, but that's what I was told.
I was about to say, like, where do you see it? Like,
Yes.
Because like uh now, all those years later, I spent, let's say I spent $30,000 on a degree and I'm not working in that field. And the interest on said degree has amassed more than what the degree was. And I feel like my degree wasn't worth nothing if I couldn't get paid the amount that I paid for it on the first year return. That's how I feel about it.
that's good right there.
Don't start me talking about ROI. Woo!
Yeah.
Exactly. That return on investment for me. Just like you, Marcia, I grew up with the adage of, well, it was taught of in a society was, you go to high school, you go to college. My environment was totally different. My environment, nobody went to college, so unfortunately there was a lot of people who, barely made it through high school. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I personally sought out college. You know what I'm saying? Because for me, I was like, I didn't know what I was going to do after high school. So I was like, you know what, I need to do something, and so I kind of already was kind of in that space of, you know, they've been talking about college this, college that. I remember my high school guidance counselor was like, yo, like, I don't think that you would even like survive in a 4-year institution, so a lot of that was me like, you know what, because she said I couldn't do it, I need to go make this thing happen. So, but also it might have been just society, and to some degree the society pressure of, after high school there's college, or you join the military, things of that nature. And so for me, as I've kind of like gone through it a couple of times, nah, the experience, yes, but is it worth it? With all of that debt and with all of, just like you just said, I haven't worked in my degree in a number of years. And so it's like, it's funny because it's like, I know I gotta pick a side, and I will before the end of the night. But because it's like I see both sides. But CJ, you hit it right on the head. I'd much rather have a person that's skilled in that particular area as opposed to somebody that just has a piece of paper saying that they're able to regurgitate information. So I'm definitely on the side right now of, I'd rather just definitely be in a space where, give me that person with the skills, not necessarily the piece of paper, because a piece of paper says that you can complete something, but that's it. That's just it. That's it.
And it don't even say you completed it because somebody could have hired somebody to take a test or write a paper. So
Exactly.
there's that.
That's the thing. That's the thing. People do it all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
This is true. And I mean, you bring up something that's very, very, very common that I hear folks saying is, well, this shows that you can complete something. Well, excuse me. I mean, I might have completed high school, right? There was 12 years of school there, right? That needed to be completed. But then there are other things in life that I mean, we could go in so many different areas, right? I mean, there's Job Corps, you can complete that. You can complete a technical college. You can complete going to the mall. I don't know. You can complete a transaction, right? Like, don't tell me a piece of paper, from a certain institution tells me that tells the world that I can complete something. I'm sorry, I digress.
Well, I guess as a fellow Gen Xer, I I guess my thought process was like Marcia's, but on the other hand, not so much from inside my house. It was the norm or the expectation that you graduate from high school and go to college, but my parents did not attend college and there was no real pressure. I just happened to be one of those kids who loved school at the time. Like, you're crazy. But I actually loved school when I was in school. So it was kind of an automatic thing for me. I'm going to college. But still, it was still different. It was still unexpected what I chose to go to school for, because I was one of those like straight A students. And so with an expectation, oh, she's going to be a doctor or a lawyer. I loved music. And I said, since that's what I love, I'm going to go to school for what I love. I knew nothing about studying music though at that time. I just knew I thought it didn't make sense to go to school for something that I wasn't interested in. So, regardless of my grades, I wanted to study something I really saw myself doing in the future. So with that, it was helpful for me to a certain degree, because I was able to really delve into something in a way I would not have had I not gone to school. I completed a 2-year degree, completed 2 more years towards a 4-year degree, but like Marcia, my child came along in that 5th year. so I ended up not completing it, but again, there was no backlash from my family, but it did stop, it halted my progress as far as where I wanted to go with that at that time. But on the other side, okay, so years later, when I'm looking, people were like, don't you want to go finish your degree? Not necessarily, because at this point, I mean, it would have accomplished something for me in my youth as far as where I would have gone, but now as a seasoned individual, there's so many other directions I can go and will go with this still that it does not require a degree. And also, I also agree with CJ as far as the experience and the knowledge of things, is more important than that piece of paper. But I get it. There are some certain things that require training that you can't just get from experience. It just depends on what it is.
Um, for me, I'm gonna agree with everyone. I definitely would prefer to work with someone who has the skills rather than that sheet of paper. I did go to college and I went for a lot of for a lot of years, honestly. But at the time, it wasn't forced on me, but it was kind of like an unsaid expectation type of thing. Like I feel like when I was in my junior year, my senior year, they were kind of pushing you like, these are the next steps. You go to college or, you go to trade school, things like that. And you're hearing that from people, but you're 16, 17, 18 years old. Like you're forced to make a decision on the way that you want your life to go at that young age. And so for me, when I was there, like I didn't know what I wanted. And so, like, people are asking me, and it's like, well, what are you going to do next? Or what are you going to do next? And it's like, if I didn't have an answer, that wasn't enough. So it was like, for me, it was kind of like, well, I guess I might as well go to college since I don't know what else to do. And I graduated high school, and, like 2, 3 months later, here I am in college. Like, granted, like I went to school for athletic training. It was something that I enjoyed doing in high school. And I had a lot of fun when I was in junior college. I stayed there for 2 years. Um, but along that path, like I started to realize that that wasn't where I wanted my life to go. Maybe, like I was saying, return on investment, like I'm spending all this money to go to college for a career path that, one, I might not be able to get a job in, but then two, like I'm not gonna make that. Like the amount of money that I took out, I'm not gonna make that much in a year. It's gonna take me a few years. So it's like it's almost not even worth it for me to go along and finish and get a master's degree and all these things. So for me, I definitely I'm gonna say I'm going with skills for sure.
Look,
Skills that pay the bills.
Right.
hey, those are the ones that matter to me. They just do. Look, I mean, look from my perspective, there was definitely pressure there. Growing up, how I grew up and where I grew up. No, not necessarily from like peer pressure, right? Like it just wasn't a thing to be doing in Southeast DC. Like it wasn't, it was like, yo, oh, you got good grades, ha ha ha, you're a nerd, kind of thing. But definitely in the house, my mom and my family was like, look, you are not of these things, right? You are not of this world. You need to get out of my house and go do something with your life. And that's either go to college or go to the military. Well, I ain't had the grades to go do that. At least I didn't. Well, no, I darn sure didn't. I graduated high school with a 1.3 GPA. Yeah, you heard that right. George
Yeah.
Bush, that's my dog. That's my man. No child left behind. That's my guy. I'm serious. Like he did it for me. And so my only option was go to the military. So I decided, yo, I'm gonna go do the best of the best. Marine Corps, right? So, I mean, going back to the completion thing real quick, it's just like, how do you tell someone that, hey, this piece of paper is the thing that tells you that you completed something when you have a military vet that's gone through 13 weeks of hell and been to war twice and came back and is very decorated. I don't even have those, showing. How do you tell that person that they can't complete anything because they don't have a degree? Right. And this gets in, and we'll probably get into this a little bit later. I think it's really the measurement of IQ, of intelligence, right? And that's the way we look at school, but who's to actually tell? I mean, we are intelligence, right? Isn't that what human beings are? We're intelligence. That's the way we look at life. It's an intelligence. How do you measure that? Right. And then how do you define this, 1,000 years ago of how you measure intelligence? And that's still the way we measure intelligence today. But look. I got a question for y'all. I got a real quick question for y'all. Going back, and I'm gonna do some history here. And Kyra, you talked to this about, things that might need this, right? When colleges were founded, what what were they founded for? What jobs, right, or occupations were the ones, do you think, that they were needed for? The college, higher education, which ones do you think, going to college is what you went to college for? Take a
Probably
guess.
doctors, lawyers.
Good guess, but wrong.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Teachers,
Who?
teacher.
Nope.
Oh man.
Close, but kind of not close. Close, but not close. Kelly?
Have my 3 answers already. I'm gonna wait.
Johans?
Bro, I most definitely thought that it was for teachers, but now I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe
Engineer? Are we talking about
factory
higher
jobs.
or
Factory
lower?
jobs.
Clergymen.
Get
Shut
out of
up.
here.
Ministers.
Oh,
That is why colleges were
That's
founded.
funny.
Is so that I'm not gonna say people or individuals, so that white men could go and become clergymen, men of God. That's why
Okay.
college
Okay,
institutions were founded, right?
So
It's and
400
so
years and 338,000 universities later.
but then it was opened up to all of the other occupations where other folks started to, half of the founding class, the first class to graduate from Harvard, went to clergy,
What year is
right?
that?
Look,
May year.
Right? What year? This is like 1600s.
16. Okay.
Yeah, when they
Okay.
were founded or so, right? So so what I'm saying is, and then so the second thing was for prestige. This was the higher class people that would send their kids off to college, even though they didn't really need it. It was just something kind of like what do you call those classes that you send your kids to, etiquette or is it etiquette?
Finishing
it's,
school.
it's etiquette classes.
yeah,
Etiquette
yeah.
classes. That's what college was for initially. And
Jackie
then it
Hill.
started to widen and widen and widen because other classes of people were like, look, well, we want this and we want this, right? And so now it has become this behemoth of a thing that it is today. And so I really like to look, what are your thoughts on the history of it and where it is today? Like, have our minds been twisted around? And now we've been sunken into the sunken place as far as college is concerned. What's going on?
Yeah.
I need a
That
teacup. We are definitely in the second
Oh,
place.
without question.
I gotta
So-
say that's funny to me because I had a whole argument with a classmate years ago
Mm,
when I was in college because he was going pursuing his ministerial what am I saying the wrong word, but anyway, he was in school to be a minister strictly because that's what he chose to do. And I was like, so you don't believe in being called to the ministry? And he was looking at me like I was crazy, because he said that at his church, the pastor, when they interview incoming ministers, that they kind of cross off the ones who say they were called. They only take the ones who went to school and got a degree for it. I was like, okay. So hearing that's very interesting.
this conversation can go somewhere else real quick. So
Yeah. Okay.
I want to
Okay.
get to something that Kelly said that struck a chord with me. So Kelly said she didn't know what she was going to go to school for. People were pressuring her. And so when we think about school, because I want to go backwards a little bit, we think about school, we are conditioned to be in a space from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. because someone decided school was to train the factory workers, and they wanted to make sure that they were able to stay in a space for 8 hours, right? So then we're like, oh, well, what are we going to train them for? We're going to maybe make them accountant, or, like all of these jobs that are in school. When you're a kid, you have like all these lofty dreams of what you want to be and what you want to do. They beat it out of you, elementary, middle, high. And then all of a sudden they say you got to go to college and then figure out what you want to do. Well, when I was 5, I wanted to do something. When I was 7, I wanted to do something. When I was 10, I wanted to do something. But now all you want me to do is spend money to get in debt so that I can work for you anyway. And then when we go to these colleges, because I got real issues with college. When we go to these colleges, everybody says pick a degree, but no one says, hey, let me help you find a job when you leave there. Because we are running out of jobs for people in college. And then I talk to people who I love teachers, but early education teachers, you got to have 3 degrees before you can even teach my kids, and they only pay you $2.32 an hour, even with those degrees.
Right.
Let's talk about some of that.
It's a
Yeah.
whole lot on the table with with you know what I'm saying, dealing with the whole idea is college worth it? Is the whole idea of going to college worth it? Is everybody, like we said, going into debt? You got folks that's, the skills that pay the bills. Who do you want at that table? Now, I'm gonna talk real quick about the history, CJ, that you kind of alluded to. One, I never knew that, and I think it's just preposterous. I think it's crazy. It's kind of wild, but I just feel like the one part that definitely resonated with me was it sort of puts you in a certain class. Like when you say you have a degree, you're educated now. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't matter if you went to school for boxing, box weaving, whatever the case might be. But the fact that you have a degree, you literally are put into a certain echelon. It's like there's levels to this thing. And they say that because you see all those things. Well, people who don't have degrees, they don't make this much money. People who have degrees, they make this much money. So now you feel like you're at a certain level above everybody else. The dating pool, people be like, oh, you're educated. People lead with their education. It's just like, wait a minute, like, who are you as a person? You're not your degrees. And Marcia, I don't even know where to begin with that. I mean, I really don't, because it's like we really are here. Like people, I feel like people want to better themselves, and I feel like we've had the propaganda of college is the way, right? You get your degree, your white picket fence, with the house, the nice job, in the DMV area, your good government job where people literally are there from the 30 years and then their children are there 30 years. So it's like it's generational. So you're like, wow. So when I talk about, I want to leave my good government job, people think I'm crazy. But I just feel that, we've definitely been bamboozled. We've definitely, and think about it like this. I feel like because we live in a capitalist society, the money part of it as well, we got to look at, because college costs continue to rise. And, I can't remember who said it, but we don't even have enough jobs to some degree for all of these graduates. I remember coming out of college, I couldn't find a job. And mind you, I came out of college after 9/11. And so it's like there was nothing out there. You know what I'm saying? So it was really scarce. And so, yeah, my thoughts is literally everywhere on this topic. And I'm just like, because the experience of college can be amazing. But what happens after college? Like, and that's the thing. And you made a good point where you said, well, who's helping these people get jobs? And in some of these institutions, you have boosters who actually are part of that process. And so, they're able to do that. Now, not in all situations, but in certain situations, you do have it, so I would love to get to that point where if we are going to choose the college route, that we do have sort of a pipeline to help folks find out their major, help find you a job, et cetera, et cetera.
That pipeline is advertised though. Like you go to career fairs or whatever, and they're telling you, oh, there's resources on campus where we'll help you find a job. There's resources on campus where we'll sit down with you and we will help you we'll help you find the things that you like, and we'll tell you the best route. Your advisors, you're required to meet with your advisors once a semester before you can even log into the portal where you can sign up for classes. And those are the people that are supposed to be helping you with that, right? But the only thing that they're worried about is you got to take 4 PE credits before you can take something that is in your major. But it's like, what are we supposed to be talking about? What major I'm supposed to choose? What am I supposed to be, talking about my interests? But then my experience with advisors has been, you already know what you're here for. So why do I need to help you with that? So it's like these people will tell you, oh, we're here to help you, and oh, we're here to back you for these things. And when you get there and that's your expectation, that's not what you're getting. So then not only are you lost and confused, but now you're like, well, now I'm not really trusting of these people. I'm not trusting of this process because I believed what was told to me. So it's like, what do I do next?
And now you got to settle for whatever you can get because you got bills
Exactly.
and you still got to eat.
Yes.
Right. I think it's so not only are you left with those things, but you left holding the bag. You are left holding the bag. So here's I look at it just like investing in the stock market, right? Just investing in crypto, investing in anything, right? If you are the last one to get in, yo, you lost, right? And so let me explain that a little bit more, right? As a matter of fact, yesterday night, y'all do y'all remember the whole thing with GameStop a couple years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Whole movie came out with it and everything. Well, last night, same dude, I can't say his name because he's got a, the F word in it, but deep effing value. He actually posted a picture last night that showed some holdings of GameStop and basically a bet, a couple, tens of millions of dollars worth of a bet that was going on right now. And that immediately jumped GameStop's stock 80% earlier today. And the thing is guess what? What goes up that rapidly, what goes up that fast must come down. So the people that got in at 8 a.m. once the bell was good, guess what? They experienced the 80% jump. But the people that got in at noon, yo, they bought at the highest. And now everyone else is starting to sell. And so I equate that to just like college. If we take it back to the history, right? It was only held for this one little group. And then it forced to be expanded. And then it forced to be expanded. And then that's when the banks and everybody else got involved. It was like, whoa, this is a money-making opportunity. And it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the college tuitions got bigger and bigger and bigger. But now everybody has a degree and no one is different than anyone else. And so the last people to get their degrees are left holding the bag. Means nothing to them. It means nothing to anyone, especially, and we haven't even begun to start talking about we're in the year 2024 with technology advancing in light speed, right? AI trumps any and every degree that's out there right now, right? So yeah, that's really the thing is I think we're at a time, I think we're at a shift in time. Well, we've been there for some time, right? We've been there for some decades where the college degree, its worthiness, right? Its eliteness has started to drop. And it's been way more about the experience of going to college than what you actually learn and how you develop in college. And I mean, do y'all think that that we should value the development more so than we should the actual, learning and the skills? What do you think? Where do you think we're going? Especially, and let's talk about this from a 2024 perspective now, because things are changing.
I want to say that there is value in the college experience, but that also on the person, because I could go to college and I could say, like, I'm here for a reason, whether okay, outside of my education, right? For my experience, like I could say I want to make a difference in this area, this area, and this area. There's clubs for that. There's groups of people that you can talk to, and there's ways to network. So if you go to school with that idea and like that purpose and you're actually taking action towards, then yeah, like your experience can be good. But then like some people go to college and they just want to enjoy the first few minutes of their freedom. People go to college and they want to drink and do all this stuff. I mean, not obviously, but it is a very like.
Are you talking about me now?
Hey, I'm talking about all of us. But like it's a big part of the college experience to just like go out there and drink. And like if you are not focused on a purpose or on a certain thing, then like your college experience was just parties and going out and random whatevers. Like,
So, I mean, and that's a good point, Kelly, because like for some of us, our first yeah, not first freedom, but freedom
It
was
is.
on campus, right? So, I thought I was focused when I got to campus, but then the frats had all the parties.
Mm.
And in some kind of way, I got on academic probation. I don't know what happened. So, like, you got that. I'm focused. I'm gonna be, I don't know, an English teacher. But then it's like all of these other things can pull your attention. And so the experience, when people talk about the experience of being in college, I think about actually being on campus, being a part, like I was on student government and I pledged my sorority. And so those things were part of my college experience, which I love to this day. But um, but then there's that part where we're looking forward, even from the time that I graduated to now. Like, I started a business, I graduated in 2000, and then I started a business in 2019. And I would like to point out that everything about how to market your business changed. And since I started my business in 2019, to CJ's point about AI, everything changes at the speed of light, right? So if I think that I've been a person who, although I was told to go to college, going forward, I told my kids, like, you don't have to go to a 4-year school, but I want you to find something you love and see if you can support yourself from it. And I think that we also need to be clear about how everybody's talking about we got to go to 4-year school. Everybody is pushing us to go to a 4-year degree when there's still a lot of trades that people can be a part of. We need electricians. I need a mechanic. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need people who can fix vacuum cleaners and do HVACs and stuff like that. But we're pushing people to go to 4-year colleges where we can't find them jobs when we could have said, hey, are you interested in air conditioner? Because ours is out right now. Let's learn that.
Some of those traits though at that age are looked down on. It's like, oh, you wanna leave college and you wanna go be an electrician or you wanna go work on cars, like especially like at that young, like immature age, like people are almost pressured to go to college, like peer pressure. I mean, not me personally, but I mean, like that's a factor too. People
That's what
don't want to do
tampons
that
were
straight out.
saying. Like, it's like looked upon, it's got this class system where you got to go get a 4-year degree. But if you talk to a plumber, the plumber will be like, I make my own hours and I make, 5 and 6
Exactly.
figures. So maybe you might want to run with me.
That was literally about to be my point. Like, and I didn't mean to cut you, see,
Nope.
but to your point, Kelly, the college experience is amazing. I feel like there's nothing that could ever take away my college experience. Now, aside from the partying and apparently people drink, oh my gosh, like who does that?
But
But just I'm just saying, like I'm new to this. I'm sorry. But but the whole idea, like I feel like, I developed as a human being, as far as my maturity, as far as you get to meet so many different people. Whereas if I was thrust into the quote unquote the workforce, I don't know if I would have survived. So I personally needed that maturity stage. I needed to be in an environment where it was pressure, but it wasn't totally like you got to get up at a certain time because this is how you make your living. This is how you eat. So it wasn't that, but it gave me an idea of just growing up who I was as a person. Like I said, I mean, like you talk about the fraternities, sororities. I mean, all the organizations. I did through the government as well, and it's just like it's a bubble. So it's not the real world per se. It's a nice bubble, but it does give you that next level of okay, once I graduate, I'm going to be great. But then when you graduate, you're like, oh my gosh, like this is the real life. Like, what do I do? So that's the part I believe that's missing. And I'm in agreement. These trade schools are amazing. So it's like I'm real big to say, hey, if you work with your hands and you have a keen knowledge or you have a keen, I guess curiosity to want to work in electronics, go for it. The only thing is that again, we're in a capitalistic society, and we understand that one, college is the business, right? They have the best advertising, and it's like it draws people in. You know what I'm saying? And so there's so many different perspectives to look at, and I'm just like, we got to figure out a way, because again, some of us, that have children, some of us the children are grown, but it's like I mentor as well, right? So it's like I'm mentoring young boys, and I'm just like, I don't always push the college route, but I push the, what are you good at? Like, what do you like? And it's interesting because it's like, as we develop, even as young adults, depending on how old you are, you're still evolving as a person and finding out your purpose, finding out your trade, what you're really good at. And so, but just to kind of have somebody say kindergarten to 12th grade, now it's college, and it's just like, I feel like some children need that gap year. You know what I'm saying? Some children need to really figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And I wonder, what if I had a gap year? Would I even have gone to college? If I was able to actually go with something that I was totally, just interested in, or had like, I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be a model. You know what I'm saying? So now, but I'm just saying, so it's just it's just all in how you look at it. But like I said, society pressures you sometimes, and you say, you know what, I gotta do something, because you don't want to just be a bum at the end of the day. I don't know about y'all, but I don't know if I could just be home after high school, just chilling in the house, drinking all the milk, and you know what I'm saying, like putting my name on stuff like that. That wasn't gonna cut it. As a man, I wasn't gonna make that happen. So it was like I needed to do something. And so for me, I felt that college was the best choice. And maybe I didn't have the exposure. So now since we have this education, as far as us growing up, we have exposure that we can give to other youth to say, you know what, you have choices. Just my thoughts.
But to speak to your point about like that the gap year, I do agree that a gap year is needed, but is it common that people are supported by their family or the people around them when they do elect to take the gap year? Like, is it okay, well, we can sit and talk to you and maybe help you out with like choosing the things that you're good at? Are the people around you even asking those thought-provoking questions? Because I wasn't asked that when I graduated high school. What are you good at? What do you want to do? What do you want to do was a question that I was asked, but like, what are you good at? What makes your heart, what's your heart's desire, or what do you feel like you want to make a change or something like that? But I don't always think that people are supported by their families to take that gap year. It's pressure, because then it's like, okay, you take the year off, and then now there could possibly be complaints. It's, well, you're just sitting in the house, or you haven't made a decision or whatever, and then it's like, okay, well, by that next look, if it even lasts a year, by the next semester, you're trying to get in at the spring semester. Like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Like you guys said you were going to support me, and here I am, like you guys are calling me a bum, essentially. And I'm not saying that's everyone's experience, but I do feel like that's very common.
Hey, oh, go ahead, real quick. I just wanted to just do a quick recap. We getting so knee deep into this conversation. We talking about the need for college. Is it worth it? Do you feel that you actually need a 4-year degree to say that you can have good earning potential? Kelly, you just touched on an amazing point. Now we're talking about your own family so much providing pressure that you need to go to that next level. Even if you're not ready, you might not even know what you want to do. So CJ, I'm gonna go ahead and kick it over to you, man. I just wanted to go ahead and do a quick recap. Go ahead, bro.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, so it's Kelly. I mean, it's the hard way to say it, and people need to listen to it and understand it. Is that's herd mentality. It is purely herd mentality. It is what society says, and we take as a commandment, right? We see things on TV, and we take that as this is the way that it is, right? Like, you ever thought of why people look at rich people badly? Did you ever take a poll of all of the movies that you see? The rich person is always the bad person. Like, even Batman, he's the Dark Knight, but he's the rich dude. And then Iron Man's the jerk, right? But he's the rich one, right? Like, the
Playboy.
Joker. Like, you ever think about that? Like and so it's the stuff that goes on TV. It's the things that everyone, right, they talk about. And then that just becomes the group think. And I think that really sucks, right? And it becomes the pressure that our parents are put on, right? And then they're looking at their kids like, oh no, my friends are, looking at me like this, and I gotta have my kids do this, and then they put that on their kids, and then now their kids put that on their. This becomes a generational curse of just herd mentality, and we're being robbed
Drift.
of our own ability to think, right? Like, is college for everyone? No. Any generalization is a falsehood, right? I mean, our hearts don't even beat the exact same way, right? Like my heart beats a little bit different than yours. It just does. It beats, but it does beat differently, right? I don't know. I'm really strong on that. I'm standing right here right now. I want people to know that you could be degree free, and it's always skills over scores. That's just me.
No, I believe that
Put
we're
that on a shirt, bro. Put that
But
on a
but but,
shirt.
but hold on.
Put that on a shirt.
I am going. I'm gonna backtrack real quick though, just to tell y'all. Y'all probably like, what kind of degrees does CJ have? What kind of degrees does CJ have? See this?
He's a doctor.
I
Doctor of
actually
motivation.
have an
Okay.
They're
honorary
addressing you
doctorate.
correctly.
I actually have an honorary doctorate from a nonprofit or so, right? It's a pretty well known clergy place or whatever. So I'm actually a minister too. I don't know if anyone knew that, but yeah, I marry people and all that kind of stuff. But I just say that to say, like, look, I earned this too. This wasn't honorary in a way where they just gave it to me. I actually did take a test and go through all these courses and all that kind of stuff. But it was not anything that I felt was like a necessity, right? It was something that I wanted to learn. So I do think if you want to go to learn in detail from these specific people in this specific way, then that's okay. Take that time and do it. But at least you thought about it and not letting the world do the thinking for you.
Yeah,
So you
I think that
sorry.
some people, I'm sorry, Marcia, you were something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. There are some people who do need the experience, and I agree it shouldn't be with the whole herd mentality. You got to go just because you got to go to college. But there are some people, depending on their home life, that is it can be a beautiful experience for them because they need something else, and that's how they get to it. Depending on how you grew up, what your home life is like, then it can, I don't want to say it like that, an escape, but in some cases, it can be, especially if you happen to can get a scholarship or something. It's not something coming out of your pocket, then it's like, okay, it's an opportunity to change your life for some. So I think you have to, you look at it both ways. Like you said, it's definitely not for everyone. There's some people who barely made it through high school. You said that, but so the education way, and you can be educated in more than one way. It doesn't have to be college, obviously. So, that whole structure school situation may not be for you, for every individual. You get out of high school, okay, then you need to figure out, someone does need to take you through have a conversation about what do you think you want to do? What is it that you love to do? What do you think you can contribute to the world, or whatever? Needs to just be some serious thought processes going on so you can determine what to do next and not waste money or dig yourself into a hole of debt unnecessarily. So, I mean, I got blessed like I took a gap year, not on purpose, but that's what happened. And then when I did go to school, my first 2 years, I was debt free those first 2 years. And then life really kicked in when I went to a 4 years college, and I had a scholarship, financial aid, work study, and a job because I was on a payment plan, a parent payment plan, but it was my payment plan. So yeah, I was hitting it for for those next couple of years. So, it's very helpful if other people can invest in our kids as far as the right conversation to help them determine what to do next. Because you can't always count on the parents to do that. So it would be great if there are people in the high schools, counselors, advisors, teachers, whatever, someone who is actually taking the time to look at these individuals, have serious heart-to-hearts with them, and try to offer them some real guidance and not just push them to college.
I think they're the wrong people, though. I don't think they're the
You think
ones
who's the
to
wrong
give
people?
them that information. I really don't.
Well, I only say that because that's who they're around every day, all day,
Yeah.
once they're in high school. But if it's not happening at home,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. It should be able to happen at home.
It
It should, but it doesn't always.
yeah, I mean, I think there just needs to be a look. Napoleon Hill talked a lot about this, right? And he talked about creating this thing called a success school. And the success school, anyone that was a teacher or professor there was someone that had actually become extremely successful in this particular area, right? Or this industry. And I think that's where we've gotten lost to a certain degree, right? Whereas, well, not even that, because I do think people can teach things that haven't, become really successful in it. I do believe that. I think people are just really gifted at teaching, but I do think that there needs to be a lot of our teachers and professors are doing it for the money, right? They're doing it.
I don't care.
They, and maybe they didn't start out that way, but they just got so burnt out because they're not making enough money, right? And now they're just like,
You
burnt.
see it?
Professors are making money.
Huh?
They're not making money. They just doing it because
They
feel
doing
like-
it for the love
Yeah.
of teaching.
I do feel like some instructors are invested in their students, right? But then there's some of the classes that you go to that are in your major, and the instructor doesn't care. They will literally tell you they don't care about this piece of paper when you're done. Like, you're here to get it, whatever. But your job isn't going to care that you went to the university of whatever. Like, they want to know if you can get the job done and if you can do it efficiently and you're not wasting their time. That's it. Like, I've gone to classes where I have learned a lot, and I've gone to classes where my instructor only showed us videos of his son playing golf. Like, I have done all of it. Like I was saying, I was taking those. I had to take PE classes. I took yoga in college as a college credit for me, as like a prerequisite for me to go to my degree. I'm like, why do I need to take yoga? I can watch YouTube videos of this. Why do I need to take a walking class?
My
I know
PE
how to
class
walk.
was a camping class. We
That's what I'm
camped.
saying. The camping class is crazy. I'm not taking it. I will fail.
All I had to do was like spend the night from night to the next day, and I got whatever credits it was. So it's crazy. It's super crazy. But I wanna like you had talked about earlier, CJ, like fast forwarding to 2024. So in 2020, when I went to college all the many decades ago, we didn't have all of these things available to us. Technology right now is amazing. You can take free MIT classes, right? You can take free Cornell classes. So when we're talking about like to Kyra's point, like the conversations need to be had. And even if the counselors are not necessarily the ones with the most information, we really got to tell these young people to be seeking out these conversations. Like, if the parents don't know, we don't know what we don't know, right? But you've got Johans who's in a position where he's mentoring kids. Like, we got to put these kids in spaces so that they can learn the questions to ask and learn how to move forward, because I might not need, like I said, the degree I got is literally confetti. I could shred that mofo and just throw it in the air because it's completely worthless at this point, right? But I've taken a Cornell class. I've taken classes that are specific to what I want to do online or whatever. I actually like the college experience, like we talked about, Johans, but they won't let me back on campus because of some stuff. So, but like we really need to be, directing people to all these other resources that are available to them. People walk around with these $1,200 cell phones, but don't know how to Google or something that could make them real money. And even if you are looking at, like you were talking about, CJ, that people don't like rich people, in movies at least. But if you want to be an influencer or, a marketer or something, like right now we have all of this technology available to you that you can follow someone who's actually doing the thing that you think that you want to do to get the education about what they're doing. And that's a lot of free stuff. You don't have to take somebody's course all the time. You can if you want to, once you've taken some classes or seen what they've done, that you really know that they have receipts for what they're doing. But I want to just, if I could, go back to that gap year, because I I think that it's super important, to Kelly's point, that if someone says, I don't want to go to college right now, that we give them the space to do that as parents, but have a plan. Like, what's your plan of taking this time off? Do you want to travel? Do you want to go somewhere? Do you want to do something? Because I worked on a ship, and I think that everybody out of college should work on a ship. That's my personal opinion. It's a 7-month contract. You could see the world, and you could do anything on the ship that you can do on land. You can be in
Drop the
customer.
link. Drop the link.
Okay, you can be a chef. You can be an esthetician. You can do anything on the ship that you can do on land. It's 7 months was my contract, minimum contract, 6 months. And you could see the world and meet people, and then you can go, oh, you know what? I might want to do something different than what I've seen in the space where I've been. I did it way after a gap year. Like my kids was grown, but just the opportunity to see the world, because we really need to be getting out of this little spaces that we're in, right? And a gap year is a good opportunity to see the world before you buckle down. That's that old school Gen X term, buckle down and go to college.
Well, I see it real quick to your point. What if you can't afford that though? Like most people can't afford to travel. You know what I'm saying? They barely, you know what I'm saying? They barely making it. So how do you talk to the individual who probably needs or maybe requires a gap year, but they don't have the means, or at least they don't feel as if they need the means to go see the world and to go quote unquote find themselves backpack through Europe? What is their perspective? Like how do you speak to that individual?
So firstly, if you work for a ship, they pay you. But if you don't want to do that, that's cool. But I feel like you can do anything you can put your mind to. Like that's that limiting belief thing, right? And that's that thing where other people are telling you, oh, this is not a good idea, or you shouldn't do that, or whatever. Like if I can't tell you the number of times I picked up and moved somewhere else, and people was like, oh, what are you doing? I just my mantra is the Nike mantra. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. Like, pack your old, I've been watching a lot of Living Single. Pack your old raggedy duffel bag and and pack your bag, and if you gotta do a couple of odd jobs while you're in this town, and then do another odd job while you're in another town. But this world is wide open. And if it's something that you're interested in, then you can find a resource to do it. But sitting at home on your mama couch or your daddy basement is harder than finding a way to backpack through Europe, I think, honestly, if you think about it.
But then
Become a
when you also think
missionary.
about it, like people don't have money to go to college either. And they figure out a way. They know it's FAFSA. It's Take Out a Loan. It's Sally Mae and whoever else, all our homegirls. Like, so it's like, why can't you have the same thought process? I mean, like, I'm not encouraging you to just go take out a huge loan to go backpack and travel, but it's like you're choosing to make a sacrifice for this experience. So it's like, why can't you do the same thing the other way? It's the way that we were programmed. It's like it's what we hear, it's what we were taught, and it's just we just assume that that's what we're supposed to do, and that's not the case. Like unless you're like a free thinker that's encouraged, like at your young age, you that's what you know to go to college. That's the next step. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm gonna finish high school, and like, what else do you do besides go to college? I definitely was to go into the military. So, like, that was the last thing in my mind. Going to the military, then it's like, well, you can go to cosmetology school, you can go to, I don't know, HVAC school or whatever. And then those things, unless it was, unless your family or whatever was supportive, unless you were just like a stern like decision maker at that age, again, they were looked down on. It's like, I don't want to go do these things. So I think that you can figure it out. There's always a way to just,
We're
prioritize and make a choice.
we're in 2024. You can get on Upwork, you can get on
Mhm.
Fiverr, you can go on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, all of those, and find a remote position. They're out there. They exist.
Yeah.
Go do it. Man, let me be single. Let me be single with no kids. Man, I'm out. I'm gone. I'm gone. I am wherever I am. That's just that. So I think we're at a better place in time nowadays than, let's say, 20 years ago, right? For that. But even then, again, you could make do. You can find a way. There's missionary opportunities, you can join, any kind of thing to, that's going and saving children in Africa or something or somewhere. And you could go and live your life and do that during the day, right? Like there's opportunities. I think it's just the exposure, or the awareness that it's possible, right? Like that's one thing that really is, lacks in our community is our exposure, our ability to think that it's possible, right? That it's not for us. That's the herd mentality, right? And so we really gotta, just shake that, man. That's the curse right there.
So CJ, who should be having these conversations with our kids, since you said not the people at school?
People that believe, right? People that have experienced some of this, right? And I'm not, when I say that, I'm when I say what I said to you about, I don't think it's the educators that are in there, is because, at least for the majority that I have met, they are kind of a one-track mind thinker, right? Like this is how education is, and this is how it flows, right? And this is how you can be successful in life. This one way. You're going to go get a job and get a retirement account, get a house with with the white picket fence, and die, right? Like that's what I get from educators. What I want is for people. We were talking about the book the other day, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Go and find someone's rich dad, right? But and if you haven't read that book, the rich dad was someone that just went for life, right? Went for different opportunities. Somebody that took risk. Someone that looked down the street. Someone that looked, across the bridge to see what life was like over there, right? So these are the people that I'm talking about that need to be talking to our children, right? And I'm one of them. I am. And I'm not going to say I've
But how do
experienced.
the children and the people cross paths? Who makes that part happen?
It's exposure, for sure. I definitely think it's just like dreaming. For me, it was just like dreaming big. It's like by connecting with different people. Like when I was in college, I was set on, I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna be on the football field, NFL, 5 years. You can ask anybody I went to college with. Like, look for me on the sidelines in 5 years. But like my second year in the summer, like I was introduced to like that personal development aspect of life. Like I was introduced to it like very young, and I just remember like being in these spaces and hearing these stories. My very first night, I met like a million. I met Matt Morris with the thing that I was doing at the time. And I was like, wow, that's possible. This is just a guy wearing a Hawaiian shirt and jeans in the middle of Plano, like wherever we're at. Like, you know what I mean? And so I'm just like, okay, well, I can do that. And then it's like they showed me the things that they were doing to develop the other parts of their lives too, where it's like, you need to, think a certain type of way. You have to think bigger and like believe that you can do these types of things. You know what I mean? And so I definitely think it's just kind of getting out there and experiencing things, and not always will you encounter these people in that time where you need to, like in high school or wherever. So sometimes it does have to be, a few years later, while you're in college, while you're exploring these groups, while you're, I don't know, walking down the hallways or at a coffee shop or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I'm asking, because to avoid, I don't say avoid, but if CJ's saying that the high schools shouldn't be choosing the pathway of college, that's why I'm saying, who's going to step in and interact with them before they make that choice, or before they just fall off or whatever? Who's the one talking to them before they get to that point?
I mean, I think
I mean, how do they get with these other people you're talking about?
there's plenty of things, right? I mean, we've had what career fairs and stuff like that in school. I think those are really important. I do think they're becoming a dying thing for some reason, in at least in my area. I don't see them becoming
Because
that.
Well,
there's
they have
no
them in college a
job.
lot.
Yeah, go on Zoom, go on Indeed. They like, you know how to find a job. You know the websites. Go.
I mean, like
Thank
I'm talking
y'all.
about the things in schools, right, where they would bring people's parents and say, oh, they do this and they do that, right? I don't think that's as big as it once was. I think it needs to be bigger, right? I do think that there should be, I don't know, like, so like my son did Cub Scouts, right? And stuff like that. I think opportunities like that, like Cub Scouts and sports and other opportunities like that for kids to get together are great places for kids to be. Why? Because some of the parents end up having to volunteer, right? And some of these parents are doing, crazy things, right? So and that's how, and then we ended up starting networking and all of that kind of stuff, right? So I was a den leader and became a pack leader and all that kind of stuff. And I still talk to some of those kids to this day. From my son's Cub Scout stuff, right? So I think a lot of those type of things need to be taken a little bit more seriously, right?
Yeah, I did
And then
junior achievement. I do remember that.
hmm?
I said I remember junior achievement
Junior
in high
achievement,
school.
right?
Yeah,
All of those
yeah.
types of things, right? And the people that become associated with those types of things. I'm not completely bashing all educators. I'm not, but at the same time, I do think that there are a lot of other people um that can show a different way, right? Because I knew that the educators that I was around, that just wasn't me. I didn't want to be them. There was nothing there that I saw that I liked, or anything, right? I graduated with 1.3 GPA, and I saw you making fun of me earlier, but it was because I didn't learn that way. I didn't learn that way, and nor did they try any other way to educate any of us, right? And I didn't skip school. I was in class. I literally was. um, so I just think that there's more that could be done in a lot of different places. Now, this requires effort on, unfortunately, on the children's side. It does, right? They have to want something a little bit different. I'm not gonna lie. Me growing up the way that I grew up, I did not want to live the way I did not want to live that way for the rest of my life. Right. And so that was another reason why I was like, CJ, why are you 10 miles away from the house and you're like 14? Well, because I don't like it here. Right. and that's just that, right? So I think there's a lot. There is no one solution, that I can conjure up right now. If I did, I'd probably be executing on it right now. But yeah.
But, and to your point, I think that we and our peers have to be more intentional about making ourselves available to young people, or perhaps volunteering time to go speak at a high school and get or create a program or something. If I'm saying, if we want to make a difference or try to make that kind of thing happen, then it may require some intentionality on our part.
It does, in fact, take a village, and the village needs to be more active with being able to help these kids. I actually am in a leadership program in the city where I am. We're going to do a career fair for the kids this summer, because we understand that it's helpful for them to start to look at other things besides, the school. They want you to go to school. The high school, they want you to go to college. That's their goal. And there's been significant guidance counselors who have told really successful people, you ain't nothing and you'll never make it, and then they're like, guess what I did? I made it. So so we need people who are going to encourage them, as well as give them different options. So the village definitely needs to jump in more, to your point, Kyra.
Yeah. I I will at some point, but one thing that really inspired me when I was a kid and I was younger, I was probably like 8 to 11 or so. I was in Young Marines, right? And that was probably what inspired me to go to the Marine Corps. I never really thought about it. But it was a Marine, and he put together this kind of drum and bugle corps where we would march, we had a band and all that kind of stuff, and we had uniforms, we were dressed to the nines, and he taught us how to drill, right? He taught us these things, and he taught us, and then there was one aspect of it was called from like boys to men and stuff like that. So we felt important, right? Like it was something that we were learning. And I felt like I was tough. I didn't grow up with a dad, so I felt like I was a little tougher than I was before I was in it and everything. So I do want to start something like that. Going forward, I probably should put a lot more thought into it now, to be honest with you, because I think that's really cool, especially I love what's going on in the women's world. I love the push that's going on. Kamala Harris, like, yo, what's up? I mean, regardless of your political stances or whatever, I hope Nikki Haley go ahead and get in there. I ain't even gonna lie. I don't care what nobody say, but I do see a thing where some of the young men may not be getting the attention that they need right now. And so, doing something for the younger gentlemen to help them see those male role models a little bit more. Because, I mean, come on, like, people of our color don't typically grow up with their dads. You know what I mean? So, and now to not see any male figures, of authority and stuff like that, I think is could be detrimental, right? Or at least it could be a little bit more beneficial for them to see some more male role models. So I'd love to probably start pursuing that. I'll probably start writing that out now. But yeah.
That's dope right there. For me, it's all about it's all about the adults taking interest, because a lot of the time you talk about there's no more career days and things of that nature. There's no more adults taking interest in children. Pause, like taking interest in them as far as their achievement and things of that nature. But you know, as like when we were growing up, you had the career fairs. I remember going to the firehouse, what I'm saying, wanting to be a fireman.
Mm.
It's like little stuff like that. Whereas it's like it's like we tried to put ourselves in those, try to remember where we were when we were children. And it's just like those opportunities, it seems like they just don't exist anymore. It's like, people are so quote unquote afraid of this generation that you can't talk to them. Nobody takes interest in them. So nobody feels the need to quote unquote do these programs and things of that nature. And so it's a societal problem. It could be an economic problem. But I just feel like we got to get back to actually caring for the next generation, you know what I'm saying, as a society, so that we can actually figure out, like, the next generation is supposed to be the ones that's going to raise us and push us forward, if that makes any sense.
That alpha?
What was
Mm-mm.
that?
I'm looking at the generations. I'm trying to figure out which one we're talking about because my grandbabies are the alphas.
Oh, they the alphas. Well, we starting the alphabet over.
I don't know because they got a beta too, so I guess.
Wow. Jeez.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, I think as we've progressed through the generations, I think it's really cool to see the progress that we've had in just the interest in getting educated more, right? Outside of just our areas, right? And we're fighting for those rights and we're going for them. But I do think it's very important that we stay with the times as well and say, yes, we have progressed, but let's not continue in this straight line without even looking, because we might just run into a wall, right? Because things are changing, right? So it might be time to turn left, because we have things like Udemy that has been out there for years. I remember I got my first course on Udemy. It had to have been like 2010, 2011. And it was on entrepreneurship. And then my second one was probably like 2012. And that one was by a guy from Stanford, a professor from Stanford that was teaching like a business course, right? He put like a business in a box course, right? And I think I might have paid like, back then, I might have paid like $50 for it, right? And I learned information about the stock market and how venture capital works from that guy back then, right? Now that was a long time ago, and I just think that we have Coursera, Google has their own set of courses and certifications. I'm not saying you don't have to chase paper by any means, but I am saying that you don't have to go sit in someone's school for 4 years to do it, because you can go and get educated in cybersecurity. By the time you learn cybersecurity today, for those kids that are going into college, the 2024 graduates that start college this fall and they go to learn cybersecurity, and 4 years later, they'll be out of a job before they even get one. Because by the time it's printed, it is out of date. That's just that.
Yeah.
And it's not just with technology anymore. That's with a lot of things now. So I'm just saying, I think we need to really embrace the times, right? I'm gonna step out there and say virtual reality is going to become massive in the educational space. I don't know if you have an Oculus or one of the Apple VR glass headsets. If you go on there and you check out the course classes that they have on there, it's a game changer, because it's a totally different experience. It's about being complete. I think one of the apps is called Immersed, where you're completely immersed into your educational experience. It's ridiculous. So I'm just saying, I think that we really need to as not as a society, because I don't want us to be herd. I don't want that herd mentality, but I do want everyone to kind of take control of your own thought process. What is it? Learn the way that you learn who it is that you are, because nowadays there's so many options out there for you to to go and get what it is that you need to be fed, right? Because not everyone learns in the same way. I'm one of them.
Mhm.
Definitely. Agreed. I'm not one of them that learns the same way either, and that's part of that problem with the regurgitation degree, right? Because if you can't regurgitate it in the manner in which the professor gave it to you, and if you can't understand it because the professor can only teach it to you one way, and there's five different learning types of learning in the room, you pretty much short.
Or worse, you go to the college course and you have to buy a code to teach yourself the class anyway. I've been in many, many classes where I pay for the course, get in the course, gotta buy the book and the access code, and I'm teaching it myself everything. Like CJ, you just said you went on on Udemy and Coursera to learn about entrepreneurship. I was doing research earlier. You can get a master's in entrepreneurship and innovation. The same things you can learn for $50, people are also paying $50,000 to learn.
Right? Yeah. They got these micro degrees and all that kind of stuff. And let's just be real, right? Like you go into a course, you start in college in fall, you go and do a couple papers, and then you take a midterm, and then you take your final exams. How does that mimic your work experience that you're preparing for? How does it? Is that what
College,
happens?
yeah, college teaches you how to research and how to use Socratic to pass your test.
Right.
I
Also,
can't say that I use Socratic, but I
don't
heard of it
forget,
before.
don't forget the company once you get out of college, they like, oh, you got a degree? Well, we can't hire you because you don't have no experience.
Or the ones where they say you're overqualified. What do you mean?
So there's a lot that needs to be fixed
Yeah.
in our education system,
But
for
I
sure.
I will tell you, I have interviewed people and I have worked with people, and y'all have these same experiences, but they'll have this tight group of couple bachelor's degrees and couple masters and a PhD and this and that, but they be dumb as a box of rocks. They can't drive a car. They can't, you know what I mean? I was like, all right, I get maybe it's the Einstein effect, but look, come on, man. Like, geez, I can't teach you common sense. How you got all these degrees and you can't even think? Like, yeah, that's the thing. Like I remember this was years ago. Years ago. I remember there was a gentleman. I was off to I think I was either going to school or I was going to my job. And I was driving down the street and this person needed a jump, right? And so I stopped in there. As a matter of fact, it was really weird because I had forgot something at my house, and I turned into this apartment complex so that I could make a U-turn to go back to my house. But right as I was making a U-turn, this guy flagged me down. I was like, hey, 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 like sweating, like almost in tears. Like, can you please give me a jump? Can you please give me a jump? I'm trying to get to a job interview. Was like, all right, okay. As a matter of fact, I was on my way to work. I had a security. I was doing security. I had my whole security get up on. I had my gun on my hip and everything. And I was like, all right, man. All right, cool. I got you. Everything okay? It was like, man, I just been without a job for years, and has a doctorate, has a whole doctorate, crying to me about how he hasn't had a job in years, and now he's struggling to get to his job interview, and now his car doesn't work and this and that. I remember that, man. That had to have been like 2008. And I mean, I think when I got back in my car, I was almost in tears. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that is ridiculous. I don't ever want to be like that. Like, is that what having a doctorate degree looks like? This dude's living in an apartment, you know, crying to me to help give him a jump because he hasn't had a job in years, and this is the first job interview that has been able to get. Like, dang, that sucks. So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I think
Well,
yeah,
yo, I mean, because you just kind of made a good point. It's like when you hear that somebody has a doctorate degree, you automatically make the assumption that they're living large. You know what I'm saying? Like they have this huge world that they're living in, and that they're just like the best thing since sliced bread. Whereas they might be hurting just as worse as you are. And it's just like, that's why a lot of times people look at education and say that, the paper is not worth what it is. It's not worth the ink that it's written on. So it's like,
yeah.
what how do you measure, or how do you even weigh your degree? The fact, like I said, is it something to say that you've completed something to say that you've mastered something because you have a master's degree? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, what have you mastered? You know what I'm saying? Because I promise you, like you come across so many people and people are like, yeah, like you just said, I got a doctorate degree, $300,000 in debt. It's like, wait a minute, like, you know what I'm saying? Student loans. And it's just like, well, what was it worth it?
That's
Was
what
it
I
worth it?
mastered. They mastered that.
That's a fact.
Me,
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know. I think it just really, people need to go about it differently, do some serious research, depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish. Okay, I can only go about, talk about myself because because I majored in music, and once I determined that I wanted to pursue classical music, there there are different things you can get into, different worlds you can get introduced to if you're doing it in college, that I, just as someone taking voice classes from someone, I could not do on my own. So that's what I'm saying. It really just depends. Now I still didn't end up doing it because I had to exit school, before I intended to. But I'm just saying that's this platform that's created for a classical music major. There are doors that can get open if you're going that route, depending on what you want to do. If you're trying to be a performer in that arena, then college is a great segue to get you there. But
And is that because of networking, or are you saying because of what you actually learned?
um, well, both,
Mm.
both. But now still, I guess it's in 2024. Even that can be done a different way. I know at that time it was yes, your learning experience, but of course, if you have the money, you can become a student of someone who can really get you there, and it can also open some doors for you depending on who you're studying under,
Mm.
even outside of college. That's possible if you have the money, because they cost if you're gonna do it that way.
True,
But that's an option outside of college, yes.
true, true,
But
true.
that's what I'm just saying. You kind of need to, you got to do your research on what it is you're trying to accomplish. Figure out, is there another way to get there besides college? Because oftentimes there are, but then there are some cases when you need that route. So
Yeah.
you got to look at your options.
Yeah. I mean, and so I haven't discussed that. I haven't said that yet, but I am totally like for it. Like if you get accepted into Harvard, go. Right? If you go to one of these big Ivy League schools, um, I mean, come on, right? Like the majority, what was it? I think is wasn't it like every single president that we've had like either went through like Harvard or Yale. I think it was one other. And then it was like certain fraternities, right? Like they were all a part of, right? So I'm a firm believer, if you're gonna go do it big, right? Um, if you have that opportunity, because the networking there is ridiculous, right? Like if you go on LinkedIn, like there's just those groups of like Harvard alumni that you cannot penetrate that network, and they're just sitting there like, hey, we need a CEO. And I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, well, this person needs a job. You know what I mean? Like, those things are just sitting around for those folks, right? And I think that's cool. I think that's great. Like if you could buy your way, that's just like buying your way into a group, right? And I'm a firm believer in that too, right? Like if you know that there's something that you want to do, Kyra, just like you said, like if you want to get into this type of music, you're gonna probably have to pay to get up under, buy your way under someone's leadership in
Privilege,
order to
yeah.
get to a certain place. And that's okay, right? Like do it. That's what you want to do. You're investing in yourself. But I do think but it's an investment. And every investment comes with risk. And I think the just because we see a piece of paper, regardless of where it's from, like the lower or the higher the risk, the lower the accreditation, I guess, or whatever it is. And who accreditates these things anyway? Right? Who gives them that authority? But
You
that's a
make a
whole nother
good
thing.
point though, CJ, because you know, I don't necessarily need to know anything. I can just know some people, because it's not always what you know, it's who you know. So if I'm in a fraternity or sorority, if I'm in student government, if I attended I could have attended Harvard and maybe not even graduated. I could have just gone for a year and met me some cool ass folks that could help me get a job. So, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
Or start that business, right? You
So there's
you
just a
just
lot of,
described
I
you
guess there's
just
just a
described
lot of ways
you
to get
just described Facebook.
to
He did
LinkedIn,
not
right?
graduate. You just described it, right? But he absolutely used that entire network of Harvard in order to create what is now Facebook, right? You had to have a Harvard edu email address in order to even be on the thing at first. So yeah, that's I mean, what
Start
what
one
what
of them
what
their cohorts and get us.
right? You know what I'm saying? Yo, let me know. I got 10K ready to go. Let's go. Who got the network? But look, y'all, this has been an amazing conversation, and I think we could go on for eons and eons about it. But any final words on the higher education and where we are with it today? We'll go
Take a
around the
gap
room.
year. Take a gap year or two, travel the world, find out what's out there, and then decide how you want to move forward in your life.
Yeah. To piggyback off of Marcia, I definitely agree with that. Take a gap year, find out the things that you like. For parents or people who are supporting students, like I do encourage you to kind of like curate an environment where your high schooler or your child feels comfortable asking for that, asking those tough questions. And then like for the student, I recommend that you like, speak up and tell people what you need. Don't just like choose college because you feel like it's the next step. Like really like be strategic about it. And make your choice based off of education. Not saying that. I mean, I feel like we all are leaning towards the side of we would prefer people with skills, but like I definitely don't feel like we're saying college is all bad. If college is right for you, then go for it. Like there's going to be support either way.
Yeah, I agree. It's like I said, just do your research, as a young person, and figure out what's best for you. And for those of us that are in a position to, we need to make ourselves available to help the young people make that decision and influence them and inform them so they can make the right choice.
Definitely. For me, it's all about for the students, learn yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like learn what makes you tick because everything is not for everybody. I feel like it's a consensus up here to say that everything is not for everybody. So college could be the best thing for you, or going a different route could be the best thing for you. But you got to know yourself. You got to know what drives you. For the parents out there, be mindful of the seeds of pressure that you plant and water and nurture each and every day. Be mindful of what you're planting. We want to be able to plant, our children in fertile soil, number one. And number two, we want them to bloom and blossom in their image, not necessarily our image or the image that we feel that they should have. Like, and that's as a parent is you want to help guide them so much, you want to hold their hand so much, but at some point or another, there's a time where it's like, Daddy, you don't have to hold my hand anymore. And so we got to actually start treating them as young adults, but also equipping them with the necessary tools so that they'll be able to make informed decisions, but also providing structure, providing love, providing a safe place, a beautiful environment. And lastly, just exposure, exposing them to just different countries, different cities, different worlds, different things that they may have of interest. Hey, if you like Legos, hey, you ever think about engineering? Let's try to put you in a robotics class. If it doesn't work, cool. At least we tried it. Let's move on to the next thing. So I feel like exposure is key. Thanks, y'all.
Yo, So I'm right here, and I'll say it. Be degree free. I'm not talking about deodorant because I don't think nobody trying to really smell that, but it's skills over scores every day, all day. It's skills over scores, and I've talked too much to the people on this, and everyone on here on the panel has shared some amazing information. So my final words are to um, the corporates. Drop the crap. Drop the requirements for these degrees because they mean nothing. They're bringing the wrong people into your organizations. You're leaving out those people that are that could be real killers and dealers within your communities, within your corporate vessels, that could really show some true drive and initiative, that could produce amazing results. Why? Because if you ever thought about it, that the people that without degrees might be a little bit more hungry. Think about that. Think about that. Yo, this has been the Gens. This has been an amazing conversation about no more degrees. But it's really been about people learning yourself. So look, Kelly, take us away. What we got on the we got any people on in the community or what?
So right now we're at 125 members in our community, which is great. Thank you everyone for being here. As always, like, we come here with the intention of spreading, good knowledge and good information from our perspectives. So I just hope that, we're always providing value to you. And if we are providing value, share us with your friends, share us with your family. You can find us on our Facebook page at the Gens Podcast, Our Authentic Selves. You can subscribe to us on YouTube at the Gens Podcast. And yeah, thank you so much for showing up, everyone.
Everybody have a wonderful night, and remember, be degree free, but not stinky. All right, peace. We out.
Peace.